Hey everyone, so we're out here, I'm out here doing a little ride, and this video has been something I've wanted to do for a while, just haven't really got around to it, but I wanted to talk about triathletes needing to get off Zwift, need to ride outdoors. There's a lot of reasons for this, and I wanted to take time to make a video to go over kind of why I think Zwift is a great tool, but it's also, I think, hurting a lot of people in triathlon specifically, and what I recommend, what I do, and things that I suggest to do instead of Zwift to get out on the road, stay safe, but also just make yourself a better triathlete, better cyclist, better all around at everything. So let's go.
All right, so I did a bunch of the recording while I was on the bike and got back to it and realized that the audio was pretty much junk and unusable. So here I am sitting down inside. We'll be able to actually hear myself talk about the points of why I think you need to get off Zwift, especially if you're a triathlete. I want to start off too by just saying that I'm fully aware that Zwift it's a great tool. Like, I use it. It is super useful. It has a lot of uses. I'm not really here to talk about how good Zwift is. I use it. I'm here to talk about the reason as to why I think it's actually hurting triathletes specifically, and why I think people need to get off of it. So I'm fully aware of how good Zwift is, and I'm sure, if comments and everything like that, like, I'm there. Like, I get it. I use it. But I think it handicaps people if you are relying on it too heavily. So number one, and I think just the biggest reason as to why people need to get off Zwift, is the obvious reason of just bike handling skills. When you're riding on Zwift, you're static. You're learning nothing as far as how to handle and negotiate a bike. You're just working on fitness, and that's it. Singular purpose. When I came to triathlon, and in general, it's like the running joke of just triathletes are terrible at handling bikes, and it's true. Like, I've witnessed some stuff in races that has it makes me just laugh during a race. And me, myself, my background, and why I don't consider myself in that category, and I consider myself to have very good bike handling skills. My background, long before I even got into racing road bikes, which was before triathlon, I raced road bikes and did criteriums and things like that, which really require you to know how to handle a bike. Grew up riding and racing dirt bikes, which you may not think applies, but the massive applications is just understanding how to operate a motorcycle on two wheels when it's sliding around and moving all over the place. It's all the same thing in my book. Understanding balance and all that stuff, it's pretty much the same concepts. Before that, I raced go-karts, and it's just continuing on and on. I've raced things my entire life that have relied on understanding grip and understanding balance and understanding all kinds of things. And then I get to, triathlon, and I'm just like, what are you people doing? It's a bit rough out there sometimes. And like I said, Zwift is great, but you're not learning how to handle a bike. So number one, the reason as to why you need to get off Zwift is you need to go out and ride your bike, because you need to understand how to actually ride a bike and how to control a bike and maneuver a bike safely. And in the end, that's going to make you faster. If you understand how to brake, how to turn your bike effectively with speed and not dropping a bunch of speed, you're going to be faster. And when you are new to this, it's intimidating. Like, tri bikes, if you're riding a traditional tri bike, it's not a conducive position to feel comfortable with handling and turning. Like, it's a strange position. The geometry of the bikes, it's odd. I get it. That's all the more reason as to why you need to go and practice and do drills of handling and how to handle your bike. It's simple as that. So what I suggest, and I've seen videos, and I'm going to put a video here of the great Lionel Sanders doing something as simple as cone drills. Slow speed, you want to do it slow, and you just do cone drills, and you're going to turn and weave back and forth. The most important thing to do is when you are Learning how to handle a bike, you want to actually understand what the proper technique is. And it's as simple as, the easiest way to explain it is, the outside pedal needs to be low. You need to put a lot of weight on that outside pedal. The inside handlebar, you need to put a lot of weight on the inside handlebar. So the weight is going straight down through the front axle and then straight through that outside foot. That's the proper way to weight a bike if you're turning. When you're turning, you want to weight your inside hand and your outside foot. It's as simple as that. You know, pedaling through the corners is a thing, but you always want to make sure and be careful about pedal striking. That's when basically your pedal comes down when you're leaning, when your inside pedal will strike the ground. That's normally catastrophic. It's a rough one. I'd say in triathlon that's not super common, just because courses aren't that technical and not that reliant on carrying that much speed through corners. But set up some cones in your neighborhood, start slow, and just weave yourself in and out, and just get comfortable turning back and forth and weighting your bike at slow speed. Do it slow. You don't have to do it fast. You can do it slow and learn it slow. So when you do start increasing speed in a race, it's the same concepts. It's the same balance of your bike. It's the same position of weighting the inside hand, weighting the outside foot, leaning in and just turning. And you'll get a feel for it. Outside, off Zwift. You're never going to learn that on a Zwift. And that's something that's not only going to make you safer on the bike, but it's also going to make you faster. Same thing with braking. I'd say braking is another thing where understanding proper braking, not just mashing on the brakes, but understanding proper brake balance and how to, brake a bike and use front and back balance correctly. With braking, what you really want to do is you want to start slow, same thing. And when you're braking, you want to make sure that you're shifting your body back. You want to get your weight off the back of the bike, not throwing it out in front of you like you're doing a bike throw, but you want to basically get your weight back. The last thing you want to do when you're braking or stopping is lock your front tire up. You lock your front tire up, that's a crash. There's really not a lot of room to save a locked front tire. You can lock your back tire all the time, and children do it sliding their bike around. You can lock your back tire kind of as much as you want if you're ready for it and can anticipate a slide and then get off the brakes. But locking your front tire is the last thing you want to do. So you want to shift your weight back, get your weight positioned back so you're not throwing yourself forward, because the last thing you want to do is also nose wheelie or go over the front of the bike. But moving your weight back, slowing down, practice that slow speed, keeping these things slow and just understanding the feel of it is how you're going to get good at it. You don't need to just come flying down some hill and try to grab a bunch of brake and see where the limit's at. Just start slow. Same thing with the corner drills. Just start slow and learn it slow. So when you start speeding up during a race, you're more comfortable with the same technique. It's as simple as that. The second reason, you have bike handling as one. The second reason that I think you should really get off Zwift is putting power down on the road is not the same as putting power down on Zwift. There can be a lot of variations. A lot of times you're realistically Zwift and working on a trainer. It's probably harder, to be honest. In my opinion, it's harder than putting out power on the road. But it's also, I think it's not like a treadmill where there's an assistance. But I think if you're in erg mode and it's just constantly going to lock you into a power, there is a bit of a mindlessness to it that you can get used to, as opposed to if you're on a flat road and you're trying to carry a wattage, it requires a little bit more thought and effort, because now, whatever you do, you have to carry that wattage. There's no automatic erg mode that's just going to keep you at a set wattage or whatever it is. So there is differences obviously to it, and you need to understand the feeling of what this feels like in the road, moving through the air, all those things. There's going to be a lot of variations, and you need to understand that, what the road feels like and what that pressure on the pedals is going to feel like when you're not just stuck in an erg mode or on a resistance trainer, kind of with that constant resistance. On the road when you're riding, there's these, you have these little kind of micro breaks, where it might be a half a pedal stroke, things like that. Like it's a very, very different feel. And like I said, can be easier. So, understanding that, hey, maybe you can put more wattage out on the street or out on the road because normally you have a better cooling effect. There's a lot of reasons. So your wattage could actually be a little bit better when you're out on the road if you're really used to just being on the trainer. So you can be surprised by yourself when you go out on the road and say, let's try to push a bigger number. You might be able to do it just as easy as you can on a trainer, because trainers tend to be a little bit more difficult because it's a constant resistance. There's no bumps, there's no undulations. It's just going to set and keep you there. On the back foot of that also, depending on your power meter setup or how you're using, your resistance trainer, things like that. If you're using a smart trainer and you're relying on that built-in power meter in the smart trainer, and then you go out on the road and you're relying on your actual power meter on your bike, there's a good chance those numbers are going to be different. They might not match up. Power meters are always, there's some variations. I know that with me personally, my smart trainer versus my actual power meter on my bike, it's about 15 watt difference, low. So if I'm on my trainer and I think I'm putting out 200 watts, if I try to put that same number out on the road, it's going to feel dramatically harder because it will actually be, 215 watts, because my power meter on my bike it reads lower. So it's going to feel a whole lot harder. So understanding like those numbers might not always correlate, and you need to understand, okay, which number's true. It doesn't really matter which number's true. You just need to know what one you're referencing. So whatever the true quote unquote number you want to go by, that's fine, but you need to know that this is your reference point. If I move to X power meter, now it's going to be this reference point, and there's going to be some variation to that. 4, and maybe just the very last one of why I think you should get off Zwift is Zwift specific. Zwift's prices just went up. I think it's went from, I don't know, it was like $13 a month, I think, to like $25 a month. So you're looking at, what is that? Almost $300 a year, essentially, if those prices are correct. There's a lot of other apps out there that aren't Zwift that, in my opinion, are just as good, and they're free. I have slowly been switching over to my Whoosh. I have no affiliation with them, but it's free. I don't use Zwift for any of the racing, social aspect of it. I don't really care. I just use it essentially just to control my trainer and build workouts in. So if you're using the social aspect of it and the racing and things like that, I get it. Zwift is cool. I've done like 3 Zwift races in my life, and I don't know. They just seem to be, they're whatever to me. I don't have a big, they just don't do anything for me. They just seem to be like just an insanely hard FTP test every single time I've done one. It's just like a full hour at threshold. That's how they ends up turning out. So if I want to do that, I can just do that on my own. But, my Whoosh I've switched to, I've used it. I'm still working out. There are some kinks with it. It's a newer program. It's also completely free. When I switched over, they were actually allowing me to like import all of my levels, so I didn't just start from scratch. So when I left Zwift at level 45 or whatever I was, they moved me to level 45 in my Whoosh and gave me all the things. There's some kinks with it. It's definitely not as a polished product, but it's free. And racing is expensive, bikes are expensive, everything's expensive. So if I can save $25 a month on a program that, in my opinion, does the same thing, it just controls my smart trainer, I can build my workouts into it, I can get onto it and ride it. I mean, why not? So that's the last one. Is really just for me is like, why pay for a product, specifically Zwift, when you can just use another one for free? And again, I have no affiliation with any of these companies. That's just personal opinion. Like, you want to save some money, go find a free one. Operate it, you can just build your workouts and have your little avatar and do the same thing, which on a totally different program. Maybe lastly, I say like, I use Zwift. This isn't saying like, I think it's terrible or I use a smart trainer. At times it just makes so much more sense for my life. And I think the same thing with a lot of people, especially wintertime comes around. I got a kid, I don't got time. So like when I ride, it's dark. I can't go out and ride. I get it. There's plenty of time for Zwift, but I see a lot of people, specifically, I think in triathlon, that are 100% on a smart trainer. And I get it. Your numbers and your data and everything lines up perfect when you're in Zwift, and it's really hard to execute that in the real world. But I think you're forgetting a huge aspect of the sport of just riding a bike and understanding like how to ride a bike. My biggest thing in triathlon would be to see triathletes stop being looked at like a joke when it comes to bike handling skills, which I'm not going to make a dent in that with this video, but I think collectively as a group, triathletes should seriously consider bike handling as part of your training and start to improve that, because it's bad and there's a reason it's a joke. So those are my 4 reasons as to why I think, you should get off a smart trainer or get off Zwift and start getting out on the road. And listen, like, being out on the road is just nice. It's just, it's just nice being out on the road in the wind, enjoying riding a bike. Like, I ride a bike because I love riding a bike. Like, I like training and all these things, but man, I like riding bikes. Go outside. It's a great time to ride a bike outside. Thanks for stopping by for this video. Hopefully it's useful. Drop some comments and tell me that I'm dead wrong and that Zwift is, all the pros use Zwift, and I get it. A lot of them do, but they're also pro athletes, and if you're thinking that they're not riding a bike outdoors, you're wrong also. So, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully this video helps you out. Honestly, if you have questions about bike handling, any of that, like, I don't know, ask me. I got a lot of experiences for riding bikes. It sounds simple, but I've raced dirt bikes and mountain bikes for 25 years. So understanding how to handle a bike, I would consider myself good at. Much better at that than my fitness. So hope you enjoyed the video. Come back for more. Got a race coming up soon this weekend. Race season's finally kind of firing off, and I'll be racing here a lot. Thanks, guys, for stopping by. Click some links, do all the things, like my page, and we'll catch you guys next time. Bye.